Normally when we start this show, I say welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad, but it's a little different here today. We are coming at you live from the premiere of Just a Bit Outside, the story of the 1982 Milwaukee Brewers. And man, am I excited for this to start.
I am too, and I'm having a hard time not going fanboy because one of my favorite players from that team, Jim Gantner, is here, and he's agreed to sit down with us, which is surprising, but
thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited about Premiere 2 tonight, And
Yeah, so tell us, when this movie started, what was your thought when all of a sudden they came to you and said, hey, we're doing a movie?
Yeah, it was like 3 years ago, and I said, you're doing a movie? He said, yeah, we want to do, an 82 team. I said, yeah, I'll be in, and did an interview for about 3 hours, and, they just took a bunch of guys, got their interviews, and they made a story out of it, and I guess it's supposed to be pretty darn good. I heard a lot of people really saying
we got a
good.
sneak peek of it, and it is outstanding.
It is?
Your part's my favorite, and I'm definitely going to say that to every player, but I'm going to say it to you here.
Yeah.
So I guess my big question is what was it like playing on the 82 Brewers? Because that was a different type of team.
Yeah, we had a great team, and what I tell everybody, we had characters on that team, hard-nosed players and Milwaukee blue-collar players, and, we had a lot of fun. The fans were awesome. We'd stop out in the parking lot and have a brat and a beer with them, and, nowadays you don't do that, but it was unique back then, and, we had fun, but when we got between the lines, we played hard.
Well,
and everybody had everybody's back.
you ended up hitting like 295 for that season. You always batted ninth, but you let off so many innings that I remember. What was it like setting the deck for the Molitors and the
Oh my gosh, it was fun. That whole lineup could hit. I mean, we could hit, average. We could hit with power, but batting ninth, I didn't mind at all because you had Molitor coming up next and Robin coming up next. Where I liked to bat was second. When Robin didn't play, I liked batting second because you got Molitor at first, and you see a lot of fastballs because he's going to steal the base, and the catcher's calling fastballs away. So,
of course,
second was my favorite, but ninth I loved too.
So when you moved over to second, Molitor moved to third due to injuries and whatever. You and Robin were one of the premier double play combinations in the entire American League. I mean, you guys were great. What made that combination work so well? And did you guys have signals that we were talking to each other throughout the game?
Oh yeah, we gave signals, and we watched the pitches. What every pitch was being called by the catcher and where to position ourselves. We knew the hitters pretty well, and as you get more and more time in the league, about just about every hitter, their tendencies, and we didn't have all the charts and that they have nowadays, but we paid attention, had scouting reports, but Robin was great to play next to, and.
I think it might have been better before they had all the charts and the computers and whatever.
And that's what I want to ask you. So for me, huge baseball fan, right? But I'm not a fan of analytics in the game. I honestly think it's destroying the game. Do you think that same thing, or am I missing something?
I think there's too many analytics. I think a little bit can help, but I think you're taking the heart out of the game. You know what I mean? And I don't think you need all the analytics. What I like to see is more ex-players, on the bench. And I just heard Goose Gossage talking that, hey, we didn't have all that stuff, And you learn a lesson. You learn as you're playing every year. You learn from older players. You respect the game. You respect older players. And so it's a lot different nowadays.
Well, and Harvey came over, and Harvey would never be able to manage in today's game because he was very much by the gut.
Oh, yeah, Harvey and all the managers I had, they were pretty much old school managers. And, back then you'd get on each other, and the manager would get on you, tell you, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that. And we'd get on each other too, hey, you get a guy on second base, your job is to get him to third base. We had teammates telling us, you got to get him to third, give yourself up a little bit, and we'll get him in from third base. But nowadays, they don't think about doing that. It's just, try to get an RBI, try to hit a home run, and I like the way we used to play it. It's more exciting, and I think this recent team now, the Brewers, I think Murphy's got them playing a lot of old school baseball. I love it.
A lot more stolen bases, a lot more small ball.
A lot of small ball. Home runs are great, but when you're not hitting them, you got to produce some runs some way, and he's got those guys stealing bases, and they're bunting more than I ever saw them bunt, and I like their style of play this year.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it's like the '82 team. Because
Yeah,
you would
a
do
lot of
anything to win.
Yeah, anything to win. I don't like what they did with the game. The thing I like, the change I like is clock on the pitcher.
Yeah,
Love
so
it.
we've talked
not
about that.
walking around the mound and get the ball, get in the box, pitch it, hit it, and let's go. And I don't like starting a guy on second base.
No.
You know what I mean? In extra innings, I think that's Little League baseball.
100%.
Play the game right. You don't need. They keep changing the game. They're gonna, it's been
gonna
the
go
same
too
for 100 years, and I don't like all the changes. I like the pitch clock.
Well, one thing that's been thrown out there, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this because we've talked about this in the past, is people will complain that the game goes too long in extra innings. What do you think about a home run derby in the 12th inning to end the game? You have one player, 6 pitches, hit a home run. That's been being tossed around.
Oh, I don't think I'd want that neither.
No?
No.
That's fair.
Nowadays, they can get all the pitching help they want. You can bring them up and down. Like back when I was playing, third time they were, they had to go through waivers or somebody could claim them. Now it's, I don't know how many options they get, but so you don't have to worry about the pitching because you can use 2 guys and bring 2 guys up the next day. Back when I played, you couldn't do that as often as they do today.
Well, back when you played, you'd face guys, and the idea was they were going to go 9.
Oh,
They
100%.
They set that mindset. And if a reliever came in like Raleigh, it could have been in the 6th inning. Today, we've seen guys being pulled who have a no-hitter going through 8.
It's crazy. I heard Goose Gossage also say, he says, the reason there's so many injuries, this is his philosophy, he said they used to wind up when they pitched.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of pressure off your elbow and shoulder. He said, we never got away from the wind-up. He said, these guys are now not winding up, so they're putting all the pressure on their elbows and shoulders. And he said, and the pitch count's hurting them because he says, as we went into the season, deeper into the season, we got stronger.
Really?
Because with the wind-up. We had more power than beginning of the season.
I remember hearing Warren Spahn saying one time that, they threw when they were kids from sun up to sundown, so their arms were getting strong. And when he was pitching for the Braves, he iced it down. He'd run the next day, and he was back throwing and ready to go again.
He's talking about speed. We had Nolan Ryan throwing 100, Randy Johnson throwing 100, Goose Gossage, Roger Clemens. They never got hurt.
No.
Right.
Well, and you
So
had
it ain't the speed.
And you had Greg Maddux and Raleigh Fingers as well, who were very much finesse pitchers. They weren't going to blow you away, but they were going to put that ball where it's supposed to be.
Oh, my gosh. Raleigh could point. I saw him in 81 when he was Cy Young Award winner and MVP. I saw one pitch down the middle, and that was in Boston. 3-0 pitch on Dwight Evans, and he hit a grand slam off him. And I was at second base, and Raleigh was new in the American League.
Right.
I should have went in and told him that Dwight Evans is the best 3-0 hitter in the league.
Yeah.
So after the game, I told him, and Raleigh said, well, it's your fault I gave up a grand slam.
There you
He
go.
said, I would have walked him. I would have gave up 1 run. He said, I went to groove. That's the only pitch I saw that whole year down the center of the plate.
Other than that, he was putting that ball
Oh
in
my
different
gosh,
places
he
where you
was
couldn't
good.
touch it.
One of the best.
So what was it that brought that team together? I mean, you had the big trade where Vukovic and Raleigh and Simmons came over. Was that really what started that run?
You hit it right on the nose. We got Fingers over here. We needed a closer. We got Vukovic over here. We needed another starter. And we got a catcher with a lot of experience who controlled the game. That turned the corner for us when we got those 3 players. I mean, that was what we needed. Harry Dalton, our general manager, went out and got him, and that was when we got those guys. I mean, our whole team, we were calling each other and saying, man, we're going to be good this year.
Now, you grew up when the Braves were still in town, right?
Yes.
So you were there when you moved. You're a Wisconsin guy, got to play for the hometown team, which is amazing. What was it like to come in for the Brewers growing up really cheering for the Braves?
I didn't even know that much about the Brewers when they drafted me. As a Braves fan, Johnny Logan and Eddie Matthews is my hero, Hank Aaron, I'd throw the baseball against the shed and pretend I'm, Johnny Logan, pretend I'm Eddie Matthews, Hank Aaron.
Yeah.
Then I got drafted by the Brewers. The night before the draft, Pittsburgh called my college coach and said, we're probably going to draft him. Will he sign? And Cincinnati also called. So I figured Cincinnati or Pittsburgh, but I got drafted by the Brewers.
Wow. Well, we're glad you were drafted by
Yeah,
the
me
Brewers.
too.
So which was your favorite park to play in?
My favorite park was probably Fenway Park.
Was it?
Just how unique it is, and the fans are right there, and good hitting park was Detroit. You could pick the ball up real easy, and that was a good hitting park. And I didn't like it, but I liked hitting in the dome.
Really?
You'd get, hit the ball hard on the ground, you got a good chance for a double.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? Outfielders had to play deep, and I wouldn't want to play there as an everyday position player or a team player there, but going there as a visitor was fun.
What was
get
it
some
like
cheap
difference?
hits.
Because now they have this artificial turf, right? But you played on like
Oh my gosh.
hard surface turf. What was it like to play like in Minnesota, where it was? I got to imagine that ball bounced quite.
Oh
a
my
bit.
gosh. It wasn't fun.
Really?
It was like that turf was like a Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, that was terrible turf, and you 3-4 chopper, they'd get a base hit, so you either had to charge extra hard or play much deeper to cut the balls off between first and second.
Did the ball come that much faster? or
Oh, a
was it
lot
more-
faster.
Really?
Yeah, very quick. But you didn't, a lot quicker. I mean, if you're a contact hitter, I talked to Molitor about this. If you're a contact hitter and playing, 162 games, your average should be 20 to 30 points higher.
Wow.
If you're putting the ball in play, just think of all the ground balls you hit that.
Yeah.
If 15 or 20 go through, that's 15 or 20 points on your average.
So this is the biggest question we have to ask.
Yeah.
That team partied everywhere they went. Where was your favorite city to go out and party in?
We didn't really party. Went out and had a few drinks.
Good. Okay, few drinks.
I like Boston too for that.
Did you?
Yeah, it was really nice. Had some nice little spots. You could walk back to the hotel and make a couple stops and just talk about the game. And a lot of times we'd stay in the clubhouse until 2, 3 in the morning, playing cards.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to get up early the next day. And a lot of times the clubhouse guy would give us the key to lock it up when we left.
Wow. Well, everybody seemed to like each other on that team.
Oh yeah, we hung together a lot. 3, 4 taxis, go out to eat, and we'd get in our arguments, get in some little fights, but that's part of a
Did you ever
loving
have
team.
Family. Yeah.
Did you have a rah-rah guy on that team, or was
We had
everybody
a lot
just
of them. Everybody, we didn't have the TVs and video games they have. Like before a game, we'd all sit in the clubhouse and get on each other. Raleigh would say, "Hey, Gantner, get a guy in from third once with less than 2 outs."
Right.
And I heard Easterly tell Raleigh, "Hey, nice job, way to slam the door after you gave up my runs." That's how we got on each other.
That's
awesome.
It was
amazing.
fun.
Well,
Back in the day, you guys faced some amazing pitchers. You mentioned a couple of them. Nolan Ryan. The list could go on. Who was the hardest pitcher you had to face?
There's some good ones out there. Actually, I didn't mind facing Clemens and them because you could strike out and still look good.
Yeah.
But facing a guy like Tommy John, changing speeds, never throwing the baseball straight, he could embarrass you striking out. I didn't mind facing him, but I didn't like facing guys that threw that slow.
was it hard to pick up a ball when it's gonna be moving?
Oh yeah, you could pick it up. I mean, because you had more time because he didn't throw that hard, but
Yeah.
it didn't matter. He was tough. There were a lot of guys. Catfish Hunter. You go for 4 and say how they do that. He was
Right.
like a Greg Maddox.
Yeah.
Just hit the spots wherever he wanted. Just take a little bit off when he's behind you 2-0. He'd throw you a fastball right down the center, but it would sink. Throw it right down the middle of the plate, and you'd swing at it and say, "Oh, it's too late."
Well, and we've talked about this. Guys don't pitch like they used to. They throw now.
Yeah.
Do you think I've seen the Manfred proposal of making guys go 6, which I don't think you can mandate, but I think the idea to get the pitchers to get in the mindset, look, I'm going 7 or 8 or 9.
Yeah, they're programmed to go 6, and 100 pitches and they're done.
Right.
I mean, you're going to train them that way. That's what
Which is crazy because their arms should be. I mean,
you said. You should get stronger,
you would think.
and they blow out more than we ever did. I mean,
There's a lot more injuries. For
oh my
pitchers now.
gosh, all elbows, So
But they're coming in and they're trying to throw 100 miles per hour out the gate. Back in your guys' day, it was you got to stave stuff for the 7th and 8th
Yeah.
inning because you're facing these guys a third time, have to show them something new.
But the thing is, believe it or not, you had to get Clemens and Nolan Ryan. You had to get them early in the game because they were stronger at the end of the game.
Really.
Yeah.
Like,
They're holding stuff back. They know they got to go the
you know
whole
what I mean?
thing.
They were heck, with Nolan Ryan, who was 44, he was still throwing 98 to 101.
These are
With-
just a freak of nature.
I
With-
mean,
An outrageous curveball.
oh my gosh, if he got the curveball over that night, you might as, that's when he'd pitch a no-hitter.
Yeah.
Here, then he started throwing a scuff ball too. You know, his curveball was, and then he'd throw a scuff ball.
What is a scuff ball?
They scuff it on one side,
Yeah.
and whatever side you put the scuff mark, that's where it moves.
Okay.
Like Don Sutton was good at it, you know.
Really?
He can move the ball to the right, he can move the ball to the left by scuffing it.
He just was very good at hiding it.
Yeah, very good.
Well, we know you've got other interviews to do. We really appreciate you coming
Yeah,
by and
thank you.
giving the time, and hopefully, because we do live so close to each other,
Yeah,
we can
maybe
have you on
run
the
into
show.
each other.
I would
Yeah,
love
for
that.
Sure.
I got your card, and it was very nice talking to you guys.
Love to
Thanks,
see you. We
Jim.
can't
Luck with
thank
the
you enough
show.
for joining us.
We appreciate it.
Bet. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that was Jim Gantner. See who we're. Appreciate it very much, Jim. Talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Another thing I don't like is picking up a double play.
Yeah.
One guy gets hurt. He got hurt back there too, didn't he?
No.
Good, clean slide. There's nothing wrong with it.
Rub a
Nothing at
little
all.
dirt on it.
Yeah.
You come back to the dugout and they give you a high five and you just broke up a double play.
We want you to come on. We would love to have you on the show. Talk about all this.
I could turn a double play now like eating a sandwich.
Yeah.
With the, plus, you have the bigger base at second base now to make it even easier.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Really appreciate
you.
it. Yeah.
We'll
see
talk to you
out there.
soon.
We'll talk
you
to you
too.
soon.
Okay.
Big thing missed on that one was you were talking about double plays, and he is not a fan of the fact that you can't slide into people in second base anymore, and he should know as a second baseman he was getting slid into all the time.
And they were sliding in hard on
Very
him.
hard. There's a couple of them out there. It's just, I mean, these guys were men.
Oh, they were tough.
It was a different ball game.
Look, they didn't ask any quarter. They didn't give any quarter. They were just going to fight through it. But what I was amazed that he was talking about is about the pitchers and how they got stronger throughout the game.
We've talked about this. It's because you are saving stuff at the end. These guys today are just going in, throwing 100 miles per hour pitch one. You're not going to save your arm doing that. I mean, it's like going into the gym. And by the way, Gantner did say I looked very strong. I want to make sure that is live on camera here.
Oh, my
I
God.
did say I looked very muscular and looked like I worked out. So, that's a former baseball
Looks
player.
can be deceiving.
Shut up,
just
dude.
so you know.
Let me take the compliment and you not be an ass about it, okay? It's a win. He said I look good. That's all that matters. That's a professional athlete.
Yes, and
Just
he
wanna
was
point
one
that
of the
out there.
best.
I lost my train of thought completely. With pitching, it's like going into the gym and saying, I'm just going to bench 300 pounds
Right.
out the gate. No, you have to warm up a little bit. You got to start at 135 and then work your way up to it. Same thing with pitching. You can't just come in and throw 100 miles per hour out the gate.
No, you can't. And I think, honestly,
Oh, we got
Mike
somebody
Oliver.
coming right here.
Iron
You
Mike.
can have the
amongst-
beer on the.
You can bring the beer on camera.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
We're getting the players to autograph a ball for us, and we're going to give it away for charity. It'll be auctioned off. This is not going to be our ball
No, as much
unless I win the bid for our
as
ball.
you can bid for it. It is charity. Mr. Caldwell,
Mike.
how are you doing? We'll bring you right over here.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting y'all. Oh, how's that?
All right, that's perfect. Do you mind bringing the microphone up just a little bit there? You
Might
can
have
screw
to
it on the
tighten it.
side.
So I got to be honest with you. You were one of the guys I love to watch the pitch.
Well, I sure appreciate it.
I mean, you were not going to take anything from anybody. You were going to give it to them, and if they hit you, that was fine. But it was always Adam balls.
Well, I tell you what, when I was with the Giants, somebody compared me to Sal Magley a little bit, just the type of stuff and the go get 'em, and I guess that's why I had a day-old beard, and I never gave in.
No.
I always said, well, hell, if I gave up 3 hits, I'll get the next guy out.
And you always did. And we saw the preview of the movie a week or so. It's amazing because I grew up in Wisconsin, and I followed this team religiously, and you guys were amazing.
You were the best person on that movie, and I've already said that to every player, but I want to make sure I say it to you too.
Well, thank you. I'm looking very forward to seeing it.
You were, in all honesty, you were absolutely outstanding. The way you were able to talk about how the games went and really kind of diagnose, from game 2 of the World Series to what happened later on, you were really able to see the difference in the way you pitched. And that's something I think we're missing a lot today.
Well, it's like, people ask me, ask all ball players, you know, what was your favorite game or your favorite moment? And to be quite honest, when it gets down to it, Game 5 in Milwaukee, I was more proud of that than the shutout, because I think I gave up 14 hits, but we had great defense.
Yeah.
And they still only scored 4 runs before Bobby came in and got the save. But you hang around that long and almost get a complete game there. It shows a little grit anyway, I guess.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
definitely.
grit.
So what do you think? I have to ask you this. We're big baseball fans. We talk about it all the time. And for me, you know, I grew up in the 90s where you had Greg Maddux, where you had Randy Johnson, and these pitchers, you went 9. Like, there was no question. If you didn't go 9, it was a problem. And obviously that was your generation as well. What do you think about this shift today to pitchers pitching 1 inning at a time?
Well, I guess that's the way that people want. They're paying these kids an awful lot of money. I guess they want them to throw as hard as they can throw, and the less they pitch them, the more often they can throw that hard. But somewhere along the line, they kind of lost the idea. I think with kids coming up through systems, they try to protect them so much that they never really get a chance to try to get out of situations in the 4th, 5th inning that often. They don't want them to get beat on a little bit, and I think that's part of learning how to win.
Definitely. You mentioned you're in Game 5 giving up 14 hits, but you're still showing that grit to make sure you're getting out of that game.
Right, and I didn't walk people. I mean,
Right.
I wasn't going to walk people. You were going to have to hit the ball. I used to go out and watch batting practice with other teams. A lot of pitchers were scared to go do that, and I'd go out there and I'd say, damn, he just took a BP ball and hit a pop-up or just hit a routine ground ball to short. I guess they can do that during the game, too.
I can't imagine back when you were pitching, if you would have had a no-hitter going in the 8th inning and your manager would have tried to pull you out, you may have had a couple words for him at that point.
I would have never quite made it that far. I got,
No.
I think 1 inning in the 7th. 1 out in the 7th inning in one game, but no hitters after high school.
Yeah,
But
but
got him in high school. How nervous do you get going into the 7th inning with a no-hitter? Do you recognize it, or?
No, not really. It was such a rarity for me to do that. It was against Atlanta, and I remember thinking, well, yeah, I'm giving up a hit, but that's the way it goes. I will tell you, I did play in college. I went and played in some Pan American games down in South America
Nice.
my senior year, and had a no-hitter against Nicaragua going into this 8th inning, and Bert Hooton, who was a well-known pitcher,
sure.
he comes up and says, Mike, you know you got a no-hitter going, don't you?
Oh,
I said,
no.
Dude, what in the hell's wrong with
Yeah,
you?
he's not supposed to talk to you during
I
that.
think I gave up one the next inning.
Oh, that's how it goes.
I remember his knuckle curveball.
It was fantastic, and believe me, the Cuban entourage, they were all over him trying to learn how to throw it and
Oh, I bet.
stuff like that.
How many pitchers did you have?
Well, basically, I threw a fastball, a 2-seam fastball, tried to make the ball move down, try to get people to hit the ball on the top half. I learned later in my career not to throw as many breaking balls to left-handed hitters. Willie Stargell hit 6 home runs off of me in the National League, and I finally decided that the 0-2-1-2 curveball to a left-hand hitter didn't work so well.
Didn't work well at all.
What was the difference between right-handed, left-handed hitters? Because you hear it, you know, it is a difference.
Well, as far as the hitters, I much preferred, like I said, until I learned, I much preferred pitching to right-handed hitters because my main goal was to move the ball from the middle down to the outside corner. I'd get in trouble early trying to throw in and didn't quite. It took me a few years to learn to throw the fastball in to right-handers. But left-hand hitters, we always threw them breaking balls and stuff. But one thing I did do before a lot of other pitchers, I started throwing my changeup to left-handed hitters.
Really?
And that's something that
That was
most coaches never would teach you because the ball's going to move right back into them. I said, well, they never see it from a left-handed pitcher, so why not?
Yeah. It was effective.
It was effective for me.
We asked Gantner this too, but when Simmons came over, experienced catcher, obviously a Hall of Fame catcher, what did that do to the pitching staff? What was the relationship there?
Well, I think the biggest thing with Teddy coming over was not so much the catching, but the fact that it was Ted Simmons. I mean, I had played against Teddy in the National League for quite a while, and the quality of player that he was, the hitter that he was, it helped. But if you remember, I had Charlie Moore.
Sure.
The year I won 22, I had Charlie Moore. He did a fine job. But
He was
Teddy, I never had to change anything. He called the pitches, I threw it. Once in a while, I'd say, Teddy, is the ball getting down? Doesn't look like it's down. He said, keep throwing the sinker, Mike. And that's all he'd say. But no, Teddy was certainly a very positive asset.
And Charlie was an underrated catcher. I mean, he was
Underrated catcher, and he kind of represents what our ball clubs were all about. Teddy shows up to be the catcher. Charlie moves into the outfield, never said a word, never complained, went right out there and became a very solid outfielder and made one of the plays that probably got us to the World Series.
one of the greatest throws I've ever seen.
Yeah.
When Reggie gets up and salutes you, you've made a good throw.
That's exactly right.
Who was the hitter that, I mean, I don't think you feared anybody watching the movie and understanding your career, but who is the hardest hitter to face?
Well, obviously Stargell with 6 home runs, but in the National League, I didn't like facing Dave Parker when he was a young player. I was
Really?
a little worried about him hitting one back up the middle. But guys that hurt me were guys like Tom Paciorek.
Bunch of Judy hitters.
Yeah, Lou Whitaker hit 188 off of me lifetime. The guys that had big swings, I finally got enough knowledge I could find holes to throw the ball to. But the guys that hit the ball, sprayed the ball around, gap the gap, they bothered me quite a bit. I can't remember the kid's name, but he was an old man then, but played with the Mets, Latin guy, choked up about this far on the bat. He used to give me fits.
Really? Because he was just trying to make contact on you.
And power hitters that were smaller guys. Ron Say was one of those guys, real short, wasn't a lot of strike zone to throw to him. Those kind of guys, you had to think twice about what you wanted to do to them.
Did you have any favorite ballparks that you like to pitch in more than any other?
Well, obviously Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
I pitched really well there. I like pitching in Milwaukee.
Did you?
I like pitching in the American League because in close games I got to stay in the games quite often. Believe it or not, I had a couple of bad outings there, but I enjoyed Boston. It was like playing pinball. It wasn't so much how hard you hit it, it was just where you hit it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's such a little bandbox.
I hated Baltimore.
Did you?
If I pitched against, I think I beat Baltimore twice early in my career in Milwaukee. And after that, it was, if I lasted 5-6 innings in Milwaukee, it was a success. If I didn't get knocked out of the game in Baltimore, it was a success. And in '82, I proved that. I think I went 11-1 and then lost 2 games in a row to Baltimore.
There's just certain teams that weren't good matchups.
Yeah.
How much of the mental game is with that? Like, you're having a losing streak with Baltimore. You're going into that game. You know, is that a big mental thing? Or?
It is. It's parks, players. Yeah. You have a little thing about it. Baltimore was a little shaky for me.
It's fair.
But
do you ever do anything? Because you always hear this from players about slumps, right? What did you do to get out of slumps? Was there anything goofy you did?
I went back to my basic 2-seam fastball. I tried to throw it around the knees right in the middle of the plate.
Yeah.
And if I happen to get it to the corners, fine. But I didn't try to change anything really or go learn a new pitch all of a sudden. Just a good, solid 2-seam fastball that was moving down in the middle of the plate. And once that started working again, then you could get the other part of your pitches and repertoire back into the game.
When I was watching you through that season, you won 17, 18 games during that year. What were you, 17 wins, I think?
I think 17.
After Harvey came along, and obviously there was a complete change in attitude on the team. Not that Buck Rogers was having problems or whatever, but he did seem to be a right fit for that. Did Harvey do anything to kind of loosen you up and get you going, or what happened once he came in and took over?
Well, different players respond to different types of managers all the time. I didn't really respond to yellers and screamers and people telling me what I had to do or blah, blah, blah. But Harvey and George Bamberger both, and Cal McClish, those three, go out and pitch. The only thing George used to say was keep your arm up on your curveball. Cal was throw strikes.
Just a little. You were a veteran at that point. When you came over to the Brewers, you'd been in the league
7 years.
7 years.
And I was struggling because I'd had 2 bad years in a row after some arm surgery in San Francisco. And by the time the Brewers got me, I knew I was healthy, but I just had to find someone that would believe in me. And fortunately, Cal McClish did.
You had some great years during that. You came over when? 78?
Middle of 77.
77? Okay.
And I think I went 5 and 8 for the rest of the season. I started quite a bit and just went home, and then it all came together the next year. I mean, I just knew I'd gotten over the little surgery I'd had in San Francisco.
Milwaukee was a place to die before that.
I'm sorry?
Milwaukee was kind of the place to die in those first few years of the franchise.
Well,
When they came over and they started building that winner, did you know as soon as you got here that there was an attitude that was different in Milwaukee?
it was starting to change. I know that they brought Cecil over, I think, at the beginning of the 77 season. And then obviously we turned it around and won, I think, 80-some games in 78. And then a couple of years later, they bring in Raleigh and
Hook and
Luke
Simmons.
and Teddy, and it was just we started winning. And that one time, that division was one of the toughest ones in baseball, and we'd come in 4th place and win 90 ball games.
Right.
And then finally in 81, we broke through a little bit in that strike shortened season, but
That was
I think
painful.
we put up a pretty good fight against the Yankees then.
You did, and that was a painful season because I think we could have gotten to the playoffs and maybe to the World Series that year as well.
We'll blame it on Don Money. If he'd only hit that one ball in Game 5 that much further, we'd have
Exactly.
won that
He
thing.
was close.
Won 3 games in a row against them.
Very close.
Well, and same with the Angels. You're going in, and nobody's ever come back from 2 games down.
That's exactly
And
right.
you guys did.
I'm sure you've heard over the years I've been quoted as saying that's why I think I pitched as well in the first game of the World Series is my teammates played well enough to give me an opportunity to get back out there.
It's a great attitude to have.
Well, it's the attitude we all had. It's like I see a lot of stuff about when we traded Gorman. Gorman wasn't the best player in baseball, but he'd run through a fence to catch a fly ball
Right.
for me. We could come in and I'd say, hey, Spike, thanks for catching that ball. He'd say, well, damn, don't let him hit it so far. I'd say, well, don't strike out 3 times.
Yeah, but everybody knew Gorman would either strike out, hit a home run, or run into a wall for you.
That's right. That's exactly.
What was it like? I mean, have you ever played? Because obviously the '82 Brewers was a great defensive team. What was the difference between playing behind a defensive team like that versus a defensive team that may be struggling a little bit on that side?
Just like Game 5 of the World Series, I was more apt to throw the ball, let them put it in play, and I think over the years I gave my defense as much credit as possible, and I think we always had a little better defensive ball club than a lot of people gave us credit for. We had some good players. Jimmy Gantner at second base was just as good as you ever going to be, and when Paulie took over at third, he was damn good. Don Money was a good third baseman. He had better fielding percentages in Philadelphia than Mike Schmidt.
He was underrated. Don was a very solid ball
He
player.
was one of our leaders too.
Yeah.
He was the experienced guy and sit around the clubhouse after a couple of bad outings, and we could sit around back then and drink a beer and talk about the game and stuff like that. But Don was an intricate part of that ball club, and if you remember, the one year we had 5 guys hit over back then. 20 home runs was a bunch. But Roy Howell and Don basically were our 2 DHs.
Right.
And I think they had 18 or 19 between them, so they almost had 20.
And for Don to go from playing third every day in his earlier in the career to go and play in DH, he really adjusted fairly well to it.
He did. Played a little bit of first, I think.
Yeah.
He might even have played out in left field once in a while, but became a DH.
Never got the feeling he was real happy about coming out of the field as much as he did, but
No, but
He did
who
well.
would be? You know, you never want to, but reality sets in after a while.
when you were pitching, you had the surgery. What was rehab like back during those days?
I was telling John Adams we did a thing this morning at 8 o'clock, and I was telling John Adams I'd gone out after the 74 season. I was 14-5 in San Francisco in 74. I'd go to the ballpark, and one day it felt great, one day it didn't. I had a bone chip that was irritating an ulnar nerve, but I got it operated on in October of 74. The same doctor, same day they did to Tommy John.
Oh.
And 3 weeks later, I flew back from North Carolina. They checked it out, sent me home, went to spring training, and started throwing. There was no rehab.
Really?
I remember I played golf. I tried to play golf about the middle of January that year, and I hit a 5-iron and jammed it into the ground, and I could feel it from my fingers up to my shoulder. And said, "Oh my, what have I done?" But it was okay, and it's just a matter of coming back. It took me a while to do it. I pitched out of the bullpen most of those 2 years, but it never hurt again. And finally, I knew I was strong enough to do whatever it was that I could do.
And you did it incredibly well.
Well, I had a lot of guys around me pulling for me, and had a lot of guys that we had the same goal in mind. And believe me, everybody loved the fans, and it's a working man's town, and we were a working man's ball club.
Exactly. And I was in college during that 82 season, and you're going to love the movie just because it's that roller coaster ride. But yeah, Wisconsin's kind of a blue collar farming kind of state, and the team just mirrored the state. There was no divas on that team. Everybody would go head first if they had to, or run and do what they had to win the game.
Well, and you know, this year, hopefully this will be the year. They look like they're solid pretty much throughout the organization now. But back then we had we just had the feeling we could get it done, I think.
Well, and this team with Pat Murphy has the same type of feel.
I like it. He runs. He's aggressive on the bases. The kids seem to react real well. They seem to play hard every day.
A lot younger
The
team.
pitching staff. I looked, and I don't even think there was a pitcher with an Ernie above 4, or there was no 4s. So everybody's doing their job.
And let's hope they can hold on. They're a young team. Yeah.
Well, it'll be an experience. If they don't win, they'll win it next year. But you got to get in it to learn it.
Exactly.
You really do.
Now, you live in North Carolina?
I do.
What part of the state?
I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. Grew up a little east of there, and myself and most of my family went to NC State University, which we won't talk about. Tennessee almost destroyed us last week.
Well, Wisconsin's playing Alabama this weekend, so I went.
Well, that's okay. Wisconsin, no matter where they start, they seem to always sneak into that top 10 somewhere.
They figure it out.
You guys stole our quarterback.
We did, and I'm glad of that. Unfortunately, I dropped this one on his head when he was a baby. He was an Ohio State fan.
I'm an Ohio State fan, so.
That's okay. I had a pitcher in the minor leagues that's an Ohio State fan. I still stay in touch with him. And
nice.
Every time they win, I call him, and every time they lose, I send him a message and say, maybe next time, Scott.
Oh, he does it to me, too. It hurts. This is our year. It better be. If not, I don't know what else we can do. We bought our team. I do have one question for you because I know you have other stuff to do, but we always have this joke between us where, I'm not an athlete, but I'm athletic, right? And so I believe that if I were given 3 months to train,
oh my God,
and I was given 100 straight fastballs from a retired Major League Baseball pitcher, I could get one hit. It doesn't have to be pretty, just one hit.
He's
Former
crazy. Pitcher.
Do you think that that's possible, or am I out of my mind?
No. Anybody can hit a ball somewhere that doesn't find a player. It's kind of like when I give up line drives, I say, hey, man. I said, that makes it even for that guy that jammed one over Jimmy Gantner's head by 2 feet the other day. Or I remember pitching in Minnesota one day, and the first inning guy hit a ball out in front of home plate. It bounced up so high, it was like, my goodness, what's the day going to bring? Because I knew there was absolutely no chance of getting him at first base.
Yeah. That turf back during that time, that was like playing with super balls on there.
Well, when I was in San Francisco, I learned that because they were filling in the bowl out in the center of the state of Candlestick, and all that concrete dust was blowing in off the bay, and you would not believe how hard and how high baseballs bounced in that stadium.
Oh, my God. Well,
You never even think about that stuff. That outside stuff coming into the field can make a big difference on how that field plays.
Absolutely.
In San Francisco, no matter how warm it might have felt, it was cold, especially at night. Did you have to do anything different to warm up for those games?
No, I just figured if the other team came in there, they had to play under the same conditions. And, I'll tell you, early in the season, I always told everybody I coached, be healthy and throw strikes when the season starts. The hitters are going to be behind you. If you don't start out poorly, you won't have to chase bad numbers all year because you're just putting more stress on you. If you start out good, you got a chance to really have a nice season.
What do you think of the pitch clock, and what do you think has to be done to get pitchers to get in the mindset, I'm actually going to go 8 innings again?
Get rid of everybody that's trying to find a way to speed the game up. Just play baseball.
Well,
They're trying to interfere with it. Roy Hobbs' baseball is not part of Major League Baseball.
Back when you were playing, games took 2.5 hours.
Well, we threw strikes and we threw the contact. I mean, not only me, but the quality pitchers too.
Yeah.
I mean, they understood a 2-pitch out was a lot better than a 7-pitch strikeout.
Right.
And we just went about our business.
So you were, because that is a big difference, because in today's game, it's get the strikeout no matter what. That's what you want to see.
Too many pitches. That's why you got all these one-inning pitchers, and
they throw, they don't pitch.
You get a guy that throws 20-plus pitches in 3 different innings, and you're adding to the game. What are they now? They have 7 trips to the mound.
Yeah.
They can take them all in one thing, and they're finding ways to get around that when they need to.
They always figure it out.
But just play baseball. It's not meant to be played on the clock.
So you're not a fan of the pitch clock then?
Didn't matter. They tried it when I played. I had no problems with it. 20 seconds is plenty of time to make a pitch. I would hate to see a close game decided on a guy that winds up walking a guy or getting in a worse count because he didn't throw the ball by the time the pitch clock hit 0.
What do you think of the rule they've got now where you can only throw over to first 3 times? You do it the 3rd time, it's a balk.
I think it's a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
We completely agree.
I don't understand that, and I'm not smart enough to understand what they did by making the bases an inch or 2 bigger. I don't know.
Well, I'm not either because I can't understand it either. I've been trying to tell this one, they still got to play on the field. It doesn't really matter.
That's right, and I don't think they should do the defenses. If the hitter wants to hit the ball where ain't nobody at, learn how to do it.
Exactly.
I've been saying
I'm
that
a
for
pitcher,
years.
what can I say?
Yeah, well, yeah. But I mean,
But you're not wrong, though. It's like, okay, you're being paid millions of dollars at this point. All you do is play baseball. If they're going to put everybody on the right field side, learn how to hit it to left field.
But there's 2 reasons they do that. Number one, they're trying to force a big power hitter to keep the ball in the park and try to hit it the other way. And the other thing is, I can't even think of what it is right this moment, but it's pretty important. I'll remember it in a second.
yes. Mike, we appreciate you stopping by and giving us some time tonight. You're going to love the movie, and we can't wait to see it on the big screen ourselves.
Well, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to it, too.
Appreciate you coming by.
All right. No, it was good. I enjoyed that.
Hey, we did too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very nice meeting you.
When you get those practice swings in, let me know.
Will do.
Oh,
We'll put a little money on it.
he's not going to do it.
I am going to
Take one of our cards. We'd love to have you watch the show. Have a good night.
Thank you so
Talk
much.
to you soon.
It'll be a wonderful night.
Yes,
Yes,
it
sir.
is.
Thank you again. Really
My pleasure.
appreciate your
My
time.
pleasure.
Mike Caldwell, everybody. You heard it. You heard it.
I heard
can do it.
nothing.
A major league pitcher said,
Dude,
with 3 months of training and 100 straight
He said
fastballs,
you
I
could-
can get a hit.
excuse me, hits don't count.
Hits do count. That's the whole thing is
No.
getting a hit.
No. You
Putting
got
it
to
in play and getting a hit.
getting a but you may foul one off, but getting a little bloop hit does not count. You have to hit the ball.
100% counts. What do they say in Bull Durham? The difference between a 280 average and a 200 average is 3 bloop singles
It's
a
a
year.
movie. No, you've got to.
You always tell me Bull Durham is law in baseball, so don't
It
even
is-
sit here
okay,
and
so-
all of a sudden tell me I can't listen to that movie.
True story about Bull Durham. It is the closest to what minor league baseball is really like. Before that movie came out, I was working in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
And we came back after It was a long road game, and there was an early day the next day. We flooded the field long before they did it on Bull Durham, just for the record, in the Quad Cities.
I'm sure you weren't the only one, but let's go back to the point of I'm right. I was just told that if I'm given 100 straight fastballs, even ask me. Let me know when you start swinging.
Did you also hear what he said? His fastball never was in the same place the same time twice.
No, after he told me I could do it, I pretty much accepted that as fact and moved on with my day.
I think what you saw was an elder statesman pitcher trying to give pity to a guy that's on a YouTube channel.
That's a former major league pitcher telling me that I can get a hit. You know we have to make this happen now.
We're going to have to, but we got to find somebody to do it first.
We'll find somebody. We've gotten to meet a lot of baseball players here. I did also think it was interesting what he's saying about the pitch clock and just getting out of baseball and let baseball be baseball.
Which, it was guys like Toby Hara that really started this longer. They'd step out of the box, he'd fix the gloves and do this and do that and twitch here, twitch there. Back when Mike was pitching, the games were 2.5, 2:45 at the most.
Right.
Because they got in the box and they pitched.
Well, we're back to that now. At some point, you have to force it at some point. And I do agree that at some point you're going to have to force pitchers to go back to pitching. It's the only way to save the game. At some point, it's just gotten so out of hand when it comes to taking these pitchers out on a regular basis. We have our ideas on how to fix it, but I don't mind the Manfred rule. I know you're not a big fan of it, but it is what it is.
I admire the fact that he's actually trying to address the issue.
You have to. Acknowledging that it's an issue. What have I been saying for this whole time we've been doing this show? The pitchers are the stars of baseball, and the reason people aren't watching baseball as much is because you've taken away the stars. A star is not somebody who's in 10% of the game.
Right. I also like what Mike said about when Simmons was there, he called the pitch, Mike just threw it. As it should be, the catchers are the smartest players on the field. They are in charge of everything. They run the chess match.
There are special occasions, okay? Don't forget, Greg Maddux did call his own game. While we're waiting for some other players to come up, we do have to give a big thank you. We do have our producer, Matthew McCooley, here. Matthew, how are we sounding? He said we sound good. He also said he sounds awful, but that has nothing to do with the microphones.
No, I've got the voice for newspaper and the face for radio. But
we also do have Cullen Heder here. He is helping us out, get some film. We're going to get a great video out of this as well. Cullen, thank you so much. He is a YouTuber himself. What's your YouTube hashtag again? You got to come a little closer. I can't hear you. You can come on camera. It's okay. Oh, we got a surprise coming here, too. What's the, quick, before we get the surprise, what's the, Thy Doge is so make sure you check out Thy Doge. I have seen these YouTube videos. If you're into gaming, that is the channel you want to go to. He is absolutely outstanding, very creative. But I'm being told by one of our guys here, we got a surprise coming. I need to look behind me. Hey, how are you doing, sir? Paul Molitor. Yeah. Very nice to meet you.
Paul, nice to meet you.
We got Russ here's going to help you out, get this up. Do you mind pushing that up a little bit, too? I think it's sagging a little bit.
Raise the boom.
Raise the boom.
Welcome back.
What are you guys doing in this little podcast right here from the theater?
Yeah. We're going live right now. We're on YouTube.
We started this about 3 years ago. We're going to do it for 2 months, and then we've got some deeply disturbed subscribers. We're up to about 130,000 now. So
that's what it takes to be successful, right?
So.
But this is why I wanted to be a part of it. You know, the 82 Brewers, my dad talks about it all the time. He was alive for it. I wasn't yet. Yeah. And he always would just go off about this team. And I never understood it. And when this movie came out, we got to see it already. You were awesome in it, by the way.
I haven't seen it, so I'm looking forward to it.
It's absolutely outstanding. I've said this to everybody, but you were my favorite.
Well, I'll tell you that I think a lot of guys are nervous because we all did the interview stuff, but I don't know what they used. I don't even remember what I said. But
hey,
we'll have to see.
They used only the good
parts. I was also surprised that they turned it into a 2-hour thing. I thought it'd be like maybe 60, 70 minutes or
it's
something.
It's 2 hours. It feels like 15. It takes you on that entire ride through the season.
I didn't even realize 2 hours had gone by. But it bridges that gap. You know, now I get it. Now it's a father and son thing. We're a father and son show, so we really want to be a part of this.
So you are how old?
35.
35, yeah.
I was in college.
One of the weird things about this, you got to admit, that they don't make documentaries or movies about teams or a season very often. And they did it about a team that lost, which is even crazy, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of people try to figure out why there was such an attachment between the Brewer fans and that particular team. And there was a lot of things. It was the culture of the community. the way the team played, the blue collar thing, the fact that, we had a lot of the same characters. It wasn't just 1 year. These, we didn't bring in free agents and stuff. We made a couple trades a few years before, but there was just a connection between the fans and that team for whatever reason that has sustained through over 4 decades,
And it has, and because of the characters, because of guys like you who were doing something we'd never seen before.
Yeah.
The way people in Milwaukee talk about it, this isn't a lie. I didn't realize you guys didn't win the World Series until I was like 14 years old.
Right.
Like the way Milwaukee talks about you,
Well,
you're the best things in sliced bread.
just part of that theme is, the parade that we had.
Yeah.
I'm sure they have some footage of that
They do.
in the movie. I said that. I said, by judging by the reaction of the crowd, you couldn't tell if we won or lost. I mean, that's the way it was. And then Robin getting crazy on his bike and just making everybody go, wow, this is pretty cool.
What was it like playing on that team? Such a cast of characters.
It was a cast of characters, and I know for you, not having seen that, you've heard about it. It's pretty amazing because different backgrounds, come from different places, and somehow all the pieces just fit. We screwed around a lot, off the field, we'd have fun, but we had a way of being ready to play when that first pitch was thrown,
So you said you had fun. What's some of the stories? Any you can share?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my memory gets faded, to be honest with you, about some of the specific stuff. I just know that we hung out a lot on the road in big groups. We had card games. We did a lot of stuff. And, we drink some of Milwaukee's finest when we would do it every now and then. Some guys could set a little higher pace, and young guy like me had trouble keeping up. But you didn't want to get left behind either, So
They showed a couple scenes from inside Harvey's bar.
Yeah.
And looked like he was having a good time over there.
How about that? Your manager's got a little bar in town that your players frequent. Go look for that today.
Only in Milwaukee.
Right?
How was that change when Harvey Keene came into the picture?
Yeah, all I remember is that Buck Rogers was a great baseball man. And this was a big opportunity for him to come in to manage a team that was kind of on the rise. We had been knocking on the door for a couple of years. And for whatever reason, it was his first go-around, and I think in hindsight, even Buck would have told you, he was a little too rigid with a team that didn't need rigidity, and you just kind of had to monitor it from afar. Yeah. And Harvey had his pulse on that, and when he took over, I don't think he wasted a lot of time thinking about lineups or who was pitching. He just he winged it, and we knew he had our backs, and he was the right fit. Personality, intelligence, baseball experience, everything for that particular club.
So you said he winged it. He managed by his gut. We could all see that.
Yeah.
Today, everything's
couldn't happen today.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Why couldn't it happen? I know everybody's in the analytics and knows about the dollars and cents, but
yeah, I don't. I think there's a lot of things. I managed for a while. I got fired about 5 years ago, but I was so open to the information, but you can't use it all, and some of it. We've seen, not to get too specific, but some examples of guys that get taken out of playoff games when they're dealing, but the numbers say it's time to bring in a new pitcher. And I think that drives a lot of people crazy. You still got to have a feel for the game and your players. You got to know who's hot, who's cold, who you can trust. And Harvey was an expert at that.
Oh, we were just talking to Mike.
I'm sorry.
Oh, good.
Caldwell?
We were just talking to Caldwell.
Yeah.
And we asked him, Corbin Burns got taken out in the 7th or 8th inning with a no-hitter going, what he would have done if the manager would have come to him at that point. And I don't think it would be a pleasant conversation.
Well, I think we'll all admit, the game's evolved in a lot of ways. And some of it's better. I mean, it's entertaining. Players are more free to show emotion on the field. That used to be taboo, That line has shifted dramatically. And I think the people love it. They want to see the flair that guys can provide. You guys got a couple of those guys on your team, Amy Adamas. I mean, he's having an unbelievable year, right? And he's going to get paid too somewhere.
Yes, he is.
But, so the change, if the fans like it, they come to the ballparks, who's to criticize it? And I'm just going to say that, I've always kept tabs on the Brewers, even though I've been gone now forever, right?
Right.
And I didn't see this coming. Give Murph a lot of credit. They are aggressive. They're not scared. And it's going to be fun to see how they shake things down when they get to October.
Murph has a little Harvey in him. I mean, he's kind of manages by a gut. I'm sure he looks at the numbers. But
Well, you got to blend them both, man. And I think the guys that can do it are probably the ones that are going to be the most successful in today's game.
So I have to ask you, you had the lowest of the lows losing to the Cardinals the way you did,
Yeah.
which the movie does a very good job about Game 2 and
I
how
was
it
angry
still
and I
bothers
wasn't even there.
still bothers people.
Yeah.
But then you had the highest of highs in Toronto.
Yeah.
Talk about the difference.
If I could have only won one time, I would choose to be it as a Brewer, right? I mean, just fully vested into this organization and team and the fan base. They treated me great for as long as I was here. And it was heartbreaking, and I think, we lost the mini series in 81 when they had the strike and all that. In 82, we finally got there. And we had, backs to the wall, the Baltimore series, the Angel series, and somehow we got to another Game 7. But I'm still disappointed that it worked out the way it did.
That comes across.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, there was grown men crying, weeping. It was really hard to swallow, and I think we were picked up by the way the fans came out to the parade and all that.
Well, Robin mentions in the movie they show him and he says, "I'll never get over it."
Yeah, still a little bitter, So.
But you got your ring.
I got one in Toronto, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
Great organization. It was, their fans up there. We do 4 million people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 50,000 a night for 80 games, right? So, and for me to transition up there, it wasn't easy. Didn't see it coming. Thought I was going to be a lifetime Brewer. All that stuff's water under the bridge.
Yeah.
But I was able to get a ring. So
We were hoping you were
good thing.
going to be a lifetime Brewer as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
It was amazing to see you come back, though, and get your number retired in Milwaukee.
It was cool. And I won't get long-winded about it, but right around that time when I was leaving, early 90s, it was when the small market, large market thing was beginning to peak.
Right.
Separation was incredibly large, and some teams couldn't do what other teams could. And unfortunately, it put some players in some tough spots.
Well, Bob Costas talked about that in one of his books where he thinks the only way to fix baseball is to have everybody share their local media revenue as well as the national.
Well, I don't know if we'll ever get to a state of like football where it's pretty much, unless you're, the Cowboys and you got certain revenues and your franchise is worth $11 billion.
Right.
But I think baseball is trying to find a way to meld a little of that philosophy and still have teams, certain media markets are going to create more money. That's just kind of the way it is.
We'd like to see baseball. It's kind of a regional sport now.
Yeah.
We'd like to get it back to being a national sport. We actually put something together at one point. We thought about it. NFL's got 4 teams in the division.
Yeah.
Couldn't baseball at this point kind of throw things up and rejiggle
I think so.
the divisions and do it that way? So
I think it makes a lot of sense given just what's going on. Whether you find a way for, geographically to get the right clubs in the right divisions. And, I don't know how you would balance the schedule the best way to do it. I do like that every team is playing every team now.
Yeah.
The 19 games in your division was ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
So, and now, you're a Minnesota Twins fan, and you're going to see Shohei Ohtani, every other year at the worst. So, but yeah, I think they showed their willingness to do things like that when the Brewers went to the National League, and they did a couple small things, Houston. And I think Manfred's open to trying to find a way to make it work better. So I wouldn't be surprised if sometime that happens.
One thing big with us is pitching. I'm a big fan of pitching. I grew up in the 90s. I had Greg Maddux, Randy Johnson, Kerry Wood was one of my all-time favorite players. And now it's more like people are throwing than pitching. I watched Greg Maddux, and he was an artist around the plate. And you guys had some players on your team with Vukovic and Mike Caldwell that really could work that plate well. What do you think about pitching now where it's really just throw as hard as you can and then get off the field?
There's a lot to it, Pitching is probably better than it's ever been as far as just more arms. But I always do say I have to quantify a little bit that they judge velocity now differently than they did when we played.
Definitely do.
It used to be across the plate, now it's out of the hand and all that stuff. But they're still throwing hard, right?
Yep.
But, we were talking on the bus coming over here with Raleigh and Simmons and Vuk about, some of those guys have trouble getting drafted now. They had the pitchability and they were smart and they know how to use their stuff. But, unless you're throwing 95 miles an hour coming out of college.
Well, that's what drives me nuts is you look at a Greg Maddux, right? One of the greatest pitchers of all time. He wouldn't be drafted today.
He would have had a tough time making his way up, right? I just watched that thing on MLB. They did a thing on Maddux that came out a couple weeks ago. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
He was the one guy that I always said that if the ball starts in the strike zone, it's going to be a ball. If it starts out of the ball, it's going to be a strike. I mean, he mastered that concept for sure.
He was a master of the plate.
So he and I have this ongoing conversation. We hate the fact that they put the little box on there.
Yeah.
Because the ball may start in the box, and it's a strike, but it looks like it finishes out of the box.
Yeah, and plus, how accurate is the box? I mean, I think they're going to, the strike zone thing's going to go one way or the other. I think in the next couple of years, I think they're trying to perfect the technology. I've seen the challenge system in the minor leagues because I've done some player development. I like that. I like that too. It's fast. It's quick. You got to know who you can trust. Your catcher can't be calling and every pitch is, hey, you have to use a little judgment. But something's going to change with that going forward. So.
Well, and you were such a good hitter, you would get some of the calls. If you let a ball go that was marginal.
Maybe. I always thought that Milwaukee didn't get a fair shake that way. Robin, Cecil, some of these guys. Big market teams and big market stars, if you will, they got taken care of more so than the Brewers. Robin Yount made 3 All-Star teams.
Which is crazy.
You only made 3 All-Star teams?
Yeah. How about that? So there was a little thing that you had to do if you were a Brewer to kind of make up for your lack of national publicity.
That's insane. How did Robin Yount only make 3 All-Star teams?
He's in the Hall of Fame. He got 2 MVPs, and he made 3 All-Star teams.
Yeah, they only got to win an MVP at 2 different positions. I mean, it was insane.
Wow. Okay, you taught me something.
Yeah, and that goes back to the strike zone thing. I don't think we got. Maybe a little bit. You stab yourself, and you've been around for 10 years. But
what drives me about the box and the TV, to me, it's unwatchable. To be honest with you, because the screen showing that it's a ball, and it's like that's at the knees.
Right.
Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and they show the side view, and you see that across the knees, and it looks below the box.
So, who was the toughest pitcher you had to face?
Oh man, it kind of changed. 21 years. There's guys when I was young. Nolan Ryan scared me. When I was a kid. I mean, you lead off a game against Nolan Ryan. He throws his last warm-up pitch, and he walks over to the third baseline, and he stomps his feet around like he's checking the ground.
Right.
Like, don't be thinking about bunting on me, son, And then he'd stare at you, and then the first at-bat, you'd see one under your chin, and the game was on. But he was intimidating. But some of the guys I faced through the years, Randy Johnson was really good. And one answer that people don't hear a lot about the toughest guy they faced, Mike Messina was really hard for me.
Yeah. Really?
Stanford grad. Couldn't think with him.
Yeah.
He was too smart.
Mike Messina was a really good pitcher.
Yeah, he'd get you out 4 times, and then you'd see him a month later, and he'd throw you a totally different repertoire, that kind of guy. So.
And those guys back then, they would hold something back early in the game because they're going to face you the 3rd time.
I know.
We know you have other places to be. We appreciate you coming by.
This is good conversation. Best one I've had since I've been here.
Hey,
other than on the bus.
You're welcome. Yeah,
that's always wins.
They got the beer on the bus.
Well, thank you so much. You ever want to come on another time, we'd love to have you.
Guys.
Nice to meet you,
Paul. Appreciate it very much. All right,
How do you feel?
If I was going to go fanboy, it would have been him or Robin.
I was waiting to have to be an adult in that situation. We had Russ come up and be like, we have a surprise for you. I was like, what are we talking? And I see Paul Molitor, like, uh-oh, we're in trouble.
Hopefully we got the ball signed. We've got a baseball. All the guys we've been asking to sign. We're going to give it away for charity.
These guys are amazing, too. They've all signed the ball, and again, it is going to charity.
Yeah.
We're very excited to have it auctioned off. We will link where it's going to be auctioned off in the description below, so you guys can get a chance to get that ball as well. You can't spend as much money as I know you're willing to spend to get that ball.
It's one of those things that if I get in the middle of an auction,
you get the experience. Let somebody else have the ball.
I want that ball.
But it does. I don't think we were able to dive enough into it, but with that, we've talked about this. The box on pitching, I can't stand it because they don't change it based on the batter. And there was one the other day I was watching a Yankees game, and you have Aaron Judge, who's 6'8", and the box is literally from the top of his or the middle of his thigh
Right.
to just below the lettering
About
of his
half of
uniform.
his half the
It's
strike zone.
And then all of a sudden it's showing a ball, and it's like, guys, that was at his knees. What are we talking about here?
When you look at these pitchers, they'd start a ball a foot outside, but it's going to cross the plate for a strike, and it'd be a ball on the box.
If there's one thing, that's why I like watching college baseball so much now. It really got me back into watching baseball on TV because you really get to just watch where the ball goes. You get to judge it for yourself, and you have to play umpire then. You don't have somebody telling you if it's a ball or a strike. You actually have to think, and that's what I love about baseball.
The only thing I disagree with Paul about was I don't want to see the robo umpires. We've had this conversation.
I used to. I really did.
I know you
used
did.
to say I wanted to see him. Seeing that challenge system now, I really enjoy it. And seeing the box after really watching it in detail, because I want to, you know me, I like to challenge my own opinion. This is what I believe, but I need to challenge my opinion on this. And after seeing that box, it's like, if this is what the robot's going on, I mean, it's not even close to being a strike in these situations.
Well, and plus the fact we watched a playoff or an all-star game, I don't remember what it was, with an umpire who is really good at the craft.
Yeah.
He didn't miss anything.
No, I mean, and if you're consistent with it, who cares?
Right.
Like, it should be perfect, but you got to pick. I mean, the problem is, too, these balls are coming so fast.
Well, and
I didn't know that about Robin Yount, by the way. He was only a 3-time All-Star.
can you believe that?
How is that even acceptable?
Okay. The only thing I will say, when he first came up in '74, he was on the job training.
Yeah, he was 18.
He was 18. He was learning. But by 77, 78, certainly 79, he should have been an all-star game all through the 80s.
I mean, is that just a small market thing?
I didn't get a chance to ask Paul, and I would have liked to. If the 82 Brewers team would have been in New York or in Chicago or L.A., it would have been one of the most iconic teams of all time.
But you never would have seen this type of team, though, because we've heard from a couple of players, they go out and have brats with people in the parking lot before and after the game.
Right. And
you're not doing that in Chicago. There's no tailgating at Wrigley.
No,
and they're doing that in New York. Again, there's no tailgating there. It's a different city where you can get away with that type of stuff.
And it was a rougher city. Milwaukee, especially back during that time, was very rural.
And I told we got Cecil Cooper coming up next.
Awesome.
Again.
Okay.
I can't be the adult in these situations.
He hit a ball and it was like this and going down. And
these are your favorite players. And looking over at your face when these people walk over, I love it. Don't get me wrong, because you're a kid again, and that's amazing. But you have to be a grown-up. I'm not capable of being a grown-up.
The only other team that would rival this team would be if the '69 Cubs were coming through for some reason.
Oh,
because
then about it.
I mean, that's my other favorite team was
Santo. My all-time favorite player. I never saw him play, but I've seen enough games of his highlights.
I've seen him.
Just him as a person. I'm a big fan of him. You know that.
Yes.
All right. Hey, perfect. We have Cecil Cooper joining us here.
Yeah, please.
All right. Might have to tighten that down. It keeps getting
Yeah,
loose.
we got the comfortable seats for you.
We do.
Soft. Yeah. Okay.
All right, we got to bring that in and up a little bit. Can't move it.
Not that high. He's not that big.
It is duct taped down.
Got it?
Yeah. I can help. I got this one.
You guys do it.
He's a technical guy.
Yeah, I'm just sit here and do it, huh?
Just sit here and do it.
Okay,
yes.
you got it. You got it.
Tell stories.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Yes. So you came over. George Scott was he was very popular in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
The Boomer.
For sure.
He hit taters, and you came over and replaced him. And obviously, the entire community embraced you and fell in love with you. But how long did it take for you to feel the fan affection?
Pretty short period of time. George and I actually got traded for each other.
Right.
Yeah, he was in Boston when I was in Boston, and he came over to Milwaukee, and then he went back to Boston. So we got traded for each other, but I know he was really popular here.
He was.
Because I think he won a batting championship or something like that.
Yeah.
A home run championship.
Home run championship.
Yeah. And I know he was pretty popular. But the fans here were just special, and they took to me pretty quickly.
Well, you fit in, and the community loved you, and this whole team kind of was embraced by the entire state, not just the city of Milwaukee. I lived outstate at the time. You were the one, though. I remember in the race, you were in a batting competition with Brett one year. You ended up hitting about 350.
Right.
Which was just insane. But you always had that laid back bat. It was fun to watch you hit.
Yeah, that was kind of an imitation of Rod Carew.
Yeah.
Rod was one of my favorite guys, and we used to play Minnesota all the time, so we get a chance to talk, and I kind of picked his brain a little bit, and he said, this is why I do what I do and how I do it, and so I kind of picked his brain, ended up copying that style, and became very comfortable for me.
Worked out.
And I think it helped me to mature as a player.
Did it?
Yeah, because I had some problems with certain areas of the plate, and his style kind of fit for me. So
I gave you that adjustment on the fly once you get in the bigs. You don't see that too often.
Well, I think a lot of guys need to do some of that.
Oh, definitely.
I think most guys today, they were set in their ways, and they look and think a certain way, and that's it. But I think you have to adjust.
Well, you looked at hitting as a science. Everybody who watched, you could tell that. But on the field, it was the same thing. You had, I think, one of the most underrated infields that were around at that.
No question. No question. I think one of the best.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about Molitor playing third base, Yount at the time was playing short, and then I think Jimmy Gantner was the best of the group. And they made me look good. So, it was fun playing with those guys.
When you got to Milwaukee, it was right, what was it, 77, 78, that time frame after Harry Dalton got here. Did you know as soon as you got here that, okay, there's something special brewing here?
Well, I knew we had some pieces, I'll put it that way. And Mr. Selig brought me over. And then we signed Larry Heisel.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, they already had, like, Charlie Moore was here, Yount was here, Molitor was drafted, and Gantner was here. And it just kind of, all the pieces started to fit. Yeah. And then I think Mike Caldwell signed, Ben Ogilvie got traded over, and we just seemed to kind of grow together. And the first year, I think we played the Yankees, I believe. And maybe it's 78 or something like that. We played the Yankees, made the playoffs, played the Yankees, and we started kind of right then. And we just grew together. And then all of a sudden, these homegrown guys, the Gorman Thomases and the Molidors, those guys all just kind of stepped up. And then we became a team. And a team that just truly kind of loved being together. And, the rest is kind of history.
We got that feeling as watching the movie. And you guys had a good time.
Oh, we had a good time all the time.
Have you seen the movie yet?
No, not yet, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Yes, you're going to love it. They did a really good job.
Yeah.
For me, I wasn't there for 82, right?
Okay.
I wasn't even a twinkle in his eye yet.
Okay,
And that's a shot at him being old, by the way. But it's amazing how it paints the picture, because for him, that's all I ever hear about is the 82 Brewers. I didn't know you guys didn't win the World Series until I was 15 years old. Like, the way Milwaukee talks about you guys, it's
well, I tell you, it was a fun time. And, it was probably the best, for me, the best year of my entire career from a fun standpoint and being productive and all that. So, and to go all the way to the last game.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's pretty special.
And really, if that strike three would have been called correctly in game 2, you guys probably won it in 4.
Probably would have won the World Series
least
if
in
we
5.
just had Raleigh healthy. We'd have won the World Series.
He swears he's going to put, if Raleigh wouldn't have been hurt, they would have won the World Series on my headstone.
That's all
Well,
he says.
it'd be a good one because it's true. If we'd have had him, we would have won the World Series. I think we had the better team. We just didn't have Raleigh.
Right. And I felt bad for Pete Ladd because he was put in a bad situation.
He did an outstanding job. He really did. I mean, it's a big load to carry, with Raleigh being out, but he did it.
He did, and one of the things from the movie that stuck in my mind, Simmons is still angry about that pitch. Should have been a strike. He did. He said everything up to the point where he'd get thrown out. You could tell he was yelling at him.
Yeah.
What was the feeling on the rest of the team when they saw that?
Well, I mean, you're really disappointed, and you feel like you got let down, and
Right.
really got kind of, I don't want to say taken away from you, but you're really disappointed in that. But I had to go back to it being, I think, the best time for most of us.
Yeah.
The team has never gone that far since, and memories that you never forget. I mean,
No.
things that happen, you never forget those times.
Well, and like I said, I was in college during that time. Loved baseball, worked in the minor leagues and all that. But it was that team. It was just something about it. You knew you guys were going out. My brother was working down in this area at the time. He ended up having a few drinks with you guys on occasion.
Yeah.
And he would tell me the stories about it. And I'm like, don't want to believe this, but I hope it's true.
Well, there was a lot of fun times. I'll put it that way. But the characters, I think, were the most important thing. The people that Gorman Thomas, Charlie Moore, Jim Gantner, Jim Selig, all of the kind of had different characters.
Right.
And they all kind of meshed together. And even Sal Bando was in there, and then Raleigh was in there, and then Paul had his quiet way of doing it. Robin had his quiet way of doing it. And it was just a special group of guys.
Yeah.
I mean, and they picked on each other. You notice I'm not saying me.
No, you were never part of that. No.
No. But it was just a fun group. And it seemed like we, even to this day, we're still kind of that way, because I was just noticed a minute ago, we're all kind of laughing and joking and
You fall
having a
back
good
into
time.
it.
Just
You
like
can
it
tell
we
around
never
here.
left.
Yeah, you can tell around here. You guys clearly still get along really well.
Oh yeah. And you know what's one of the most exciting times of all was the bus ride
Really?
after the game, and actually even to the game. Those were the fun times.
Any
Because
fun stories?
Bob Uecker would keep us rolling through all
Oh,
of
I'm sure.
all of it. Yes.
I'm sure.
Yes.
So let me ask you this. I always looked at that team. There wasn't a real big rah-rah guy that was a leader, but you I saw you as a leader of that team in the clubhouse. Maybe you weren't, but on the field, certainly, you were the take control guy in the field, besides Simmons behind the plate, of course. How do you rally those guys, or once they got on the field, was it just business?
Well, I think we all were leaders, really.
Yeah.
Because I think Gantner, in a special way, he played every day. He played all the time. Robin was a special way because he didn't say a lot, but he played.
Right.
Paulie was the same way. They played. They were on the team. They played every day. They were in the lineup. They produced. And I think sometimes you do it, but you do it in special ways. Because I was not a vocal guy.
Right.
But I believed that I had to go out and play every day and produce. That's my role. And so I think everybody kind of took that on.
So, your iconic moment in the playoff game, you're waving that ball down, and of course, I couldn't get tickets, but I was watching on TV, and you're going like this. What did that feel like when you hit that ball? Did you know it was a base hit, or were you really worried it wasn't going to drop?
Well, I had some worries there a little bit. But, I kind of thought it was going to get down. But I am just tickled and thankful that the chance came around.
Right.
Because there was one other opportunity, and I didn't get it done. And I've always kind of prided myself on being the guy to get it done, and I didn't. And then it came again. For me, it came again.
And you
And
mentioned
I'm just thankful that I had a chance to do it.
You mentioned that in the movie, and what a different way to look at things. Because other guys, they get it and then they get afraid. Well, I just screwed up. Now I'm afraid I'm going to screw up again. But for you, it was, give me that chance.
No, I want that chance. I've always been that kind of person. Maybe quietly, but I've always wanted to be the guy to be there.
Oh, it makes you a winner.
And I'm not the only one. There were some others who, were on the team that did the same thing. I mean, they wanted to be in that moment. And it was just something special about that for me.
Let me ask you this, because back when you guys were playing, games would go 2:30, 2:45, got stretched out so long. Do you like the pitch clock and some of the changes they're trying to make, or not?
Well, I think maybe not so much the pitch clock, but, I mean, the game had to be speeded up some.
Yeah.
Because you're entertaining fans for 3 hours. That's a long time. So if you could, speed it up or however they do it. I mean, it seems to be working. I'm not particularly a fan of it, but it seems to be working a little bit.
And that speeded up the games quite a bit.
Yeah, it has worked a little bit.
And
I'm not sure if that's the real answer.
I don't know if it was the pitchers, but it was the guys that were stepping out of the box, fixing their gloves, the Toby Hara effect or whatever. It just got things slowed down. I was always like, just cut some of the commercials, charge a little bit more, whatever. But just get on with the game.
Yes. Well, I think what has helped a little bit too is the manager. When you go, and the guy has to face three guys and all that, and the manager can't go back and forth all the time. There's a lot of that. And now it's not so much of that. And I think that helps a lot.
Oh, what do you think? I do have a question, because this is a big one for me. Watching baseball on TV now is hard for me in major leagues because they have that box on there. And that box, it's not the real strike zone, but yet it's telling you what's balls and strikes. And it's like, guys, that was at his knees. Like, what do you think about that being on TV? Do you think it would make it better if they took it away?
Well, I do think we need to do something. I don't know exactly what, but it definitely is kind of a variation for a lot of umpires.
Yeah.
They say one thing and then they kind of do other things.
Right.
And there needs to be some consistency. So what that is, I don't know, but I know it needs to be some adjustments made there.
When I heard an interview with you a long time ago, you said as long as the umpires were consistent with what they were calling, you could adjust.
To me, that's the most important thing. If I know that this guy's there today and he's consistent, then I don't have a problem.
Did you have? I don't mean to pick on somebody who's not in the league anymore, but there was a certain umpire that had a lot of issues over the last few years. Did you have umpires that you kind of dreaded when they were behind the plate?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Because it didn't take me long up there when I went up there.
Right.
I was looking for something to hit, and the first thing close, I was going to hit. I was going to swing. And I think players today tend to kind of take a lot more pitches. My action would be over within a couple of pitches. Some nights I would go 5 at-bats, and I might see 7.
Wow.
Really?
I mean, I was quick.
You were like that. Molitor was like that, too,
Yes.
a lot.
Yeah, if it's in the zone, I want to get on it.
Right.
Because how many you don't know if you're going to get another one. So I would get on it pretty quick.
I do have one question, because this was something that was interesting that I never thought of until other players have brought it up. What was it like fielding on an AstroTurf in like the Metrodome or someplace like that? Was it harder to do in those type of games?
For me, yes.
Was it?
Yeah, and not so much the fielding, but the standing. I had feet problems.
Oh.
And back in the day, we used to have the metal cleats.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was hard for me. I always had, my feet would bother me a lot.
I never even thought about that. Nobody's brought that up, but I got to
that
imagine it was
that
harder to
tough.
stand on.
Because it was just laid on cement
Basically, yeah.
or whatever.
Not a lot of cushion.
Right.
Now, Minnesota, I think, eventually had a little cushion in there.
Did they?
But I know Kansas City was very, very hard. And I used to struggle there.
Really?
Yes. I'd soak my feet after the games.
Was that the hardest park for you to play in?
No, I think Seattle was probably the toughest for me.
What made that hard?
Hard to see.
Oh, really?
The ceiling, the dome was kind of where you'd lose the ball.
Yeah. It's like playing in, we lived in Tampa for 15 years.
Okay.
It's a bad stadium.
Yes,
but
yes.
it's not even a good AAA park.
I never played there, but I managed there. But, yeah, it's a bad stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're talking about rebuilding it. Hopefully they'll get
Well,
it
I
done.
think they've already passed
they'll
the
move.
bill.
No,
There's something to-
there's
Got
trouble again with
overturned.
it apparently.
really?
They're
Yeah.
playing games there.
Yeah.
All right, one fun question. I know you got other stuff to
Okay.
do, but we have this bet, and you're
Oh,
one of the
God.
best hitters he's ever talked about. I hear about it all the time. So,
350. He proved himself.
yes. I'm athletic. I'm not an athlete. You're an athlete. There's a big difference. But I tell him, if I was given 3 months to train and I was given straight fastballs from a former major league pitcher, I could get a hit. Just one hit. You think that's possible, or am I out of my mind?
You could hit the ball, probably.
All right.
To
see?
get a hit, I don't know.
Thank you. Oh, he forgets those fastballs move a lot.
They move. There's some ride, some sink, some sail. So
He said I could hit the ball. I'm
you
taking
could
that
put the
as a
bat on the
win.
ball. Now, I don't know if
That's
you'd get a
all I
hit.
wanna do.
Okay. There's always been, I caught a little bit,
Uh-huh.
and some guys, I got to catch Chuck Finley, and he threw a heavy ball. I mean, it hit the glove and exploded. Explain to the people that are watching what a heavy ball really is. It's like with a Nolan Ryan fastball.
Well, I don't think no one threw a heavy ball. I would say ball that doesn't really move a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, if a ball moves a little bit, that means it's got some, to me, some lightness to it. But when it doesn't move, like I'll tell you a guy who to me threw a heavy ball would be Dennis Leonard. They used to pitch for Kansas City.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, and I think he threw a pretty heavy ball, and he also gave me a lot of trouble.
Who is the pitcher you had the most trouble with?
Well, probably Leonard or, well, there was a guy that was in the bullpen the day that I got the hit for the AL championship,
Right.
but he didn't pitch. Andy Hassler, left-handed pitcher.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever gotten a hit off
Really?
him. Yeah, he was pretty tough on left-hand hitters. But there were a few guys that, gave me a lot of trouble. But I knew how to manage.
Did you prepare differently if you know you're going up against a pitcher that's going to give you trouble?
Well, I tried to minimize the area that I would try to cover.
Yeah.
Because you can't do most of it, so I try to minimize and try to take away the one thing that that I know his favorite pitch is.
Yeah.
And I try to minimize that.
Well, you mentioned that because you see a lot of scouting report in Major League Baseball today, and in my opinion, it's almost too much, right? We're getting too cute with the game. You guys seem to have a lot of gut in the game instead. Do you think analytics has gone too far, or you like where it's at?
A little bit too far.
Yeah.
A little bit too far. Like I like now what they've done. They've taken away all that shifting
Right.
they had. And that was bad. I mean, that's not baseball. To me, you have to, you can move a little bit because you know a guy might be a poor hitter, but not to have the shortstop playing in center field and the second baseman in right field. I mean, that's not baseball.
But a hitter like you, though, you would just hit to the other side of the.
Oh, yes.
I mean, that's
They
where
would
I
never-
get confused.
If they had done that back in the day, I'd probably hit 400.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, that's what confuses me. You're being paid millions of dollars at this point. Just hit the ball the other way.
Yeah.
It's wide open.
And if I had guys, I would teach them that anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I would teach, is hit the ball the other way.
Well, I think, again, you were 350. I was hoping you'd get to 400 that year. I was
Well,
hoping.
there was a guy
Yeah,
that
there was
got
in-
the
down in
390
Kansas City.
or something. Yeah.
I know. You should have won. You should have won the MVP. I don't care if he hit 390.
No, he had a great year.
He
He's
did.
an outstanding player, and you knew that because the guy went to the Hall of Fame.
Was he a good competitor
Good
as well?
I mean, probably one of the fiercest competitors that I've ever seen. Yes.
Yeah. See, so we know you have to get going for the movie. I can't wait for you to see it. I think you're going to love it.
Well, I hear that you can get a little emotional in there, so I
You
don't
can.
know. I got to brace myself.
The end of the movie, I'm watching it, and I was getting choked up because it still affects you guys even 40 years later.
Wow. Well, I'm looking forward to it then.
It's a great movie. You're going to enjoy it. We look forward to watching in there with you. Thank you so much for joining
My
us
pleasure.
today. We really appreciate
My
it.
pleasure.
Appreciate you coming along.
Thank you so much.
All righty. Yes, I'll get you. I sure will. My pleasure, sir. My pleasure. For charity. Okay.
You are a little boy today.
With Coop? Yeah.
I just shut up and let you talk.
I know. I loved watching him hit because he did look like Carew.
Yeah.
And
People are getting excited. You're hearing the Coop calls here from all over the place.
this team loved Coop.
Yeah.
He was one of the favorite players on the team, one of my favorites, because he was so genuine and he just seemed like a really good guy.
It seems like it. He was fun to talk to. Smart guy.
He was a scientist.
I mean, the way in majors, all of a sudden you're talking to a player and you're like, I'm going to readjust the entire way I hit just to see if it works better.
Well,
Who does that nowadays?
give him credit. He went to probably one of the greatest hitters who have ever played the game in Rod Carew. I think when he laid that back a little bit the way he did, it just gave him that split second of extra time.
You're getting a lot faster all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I've seen him hit. It's funny. You showed my son, and now my son thinks he can hit like that. And the frustrating thing is he got a round on one on me the other day, and I had put some movement on it just to mess with him, and he actually got around on it. I was like, I don't like where this is going.
He came in and said, "Grandpa, I hit it to the ditch."
He took me yard. It is getting to be that time.
Are you getting the feeling of why this team was so special?
Oh, definitely. Watching the movie, I understood why this team is so special. It's amazing to hear the commonality of two with the game. Like, we need to do something with the game, but what we're doing isn't necessarily what needs to be done.
Right. And I've been amazed by some of the guys who don't like the pitch clock.
That surprised me too, because I'm a huge fan of the pitch clock.
I am too, because it speeded up the game so much. Caldwell was always a fast worker. And Coop and Molitor never messed around. They were in the box and they wanted to hit.
Right. I also love the idea of just getting up there and hitting the ball. Because I agree, what takes so long is these guys are seeing 4 or 5 pitches before actually swinging at the ball. If you see one down the middle of the plate, swing.
Yeah, and Coop did that, and so did Molitor. Molitor was a deadly first ball, fastball hitter.
Almost lost our sign.
Oh, no, don't lose our sign.
Luckily, it's still standing. But that was almost bad. Live TV, man.
It's what happens.
It is what it is. So how do you feel so far talking to all these players?
You know, when you get the chance to talk to them, they really are just genuine human beings who love the sport,
right,
who actually have real affection for the fans of Milwaukee. This team couldn't have existed anyplace else.
It's hard to imagine that a Yankees team could have had the same effect. Because I think, too, this was a brand new team. You know, they had just lost the Braves, 10 years earlier?
They lost the Braves in 65.
All right, it's a little bit sooner
So,
than that.
and then Selig, 65, 66. Selig buys the Pilots out of bankruptcy, brings them here, I think, like a week before the season started. Opens them up, because his original idea was to have the Brewers in Braves colors.
Right. We saw those uniforms. They showed them in the movie.
Right. They're the Brewers colors because that's what Seattle's uniforms were.
Right.
And they just never changed it. And I love those colors.
I can't imagine them being in red. I mean, I've never seen it before, but they're classic.
I'm glad they went with what they did. Things happen for a reason sometime. But then the first, 6, 7 years of that team, they were bad.
Yeah.
There's no way to color code it.
They're basically a franchise.
They were minor league, not a minor league team, but they were, people came in to eat their lunch.
Miami Marlins.
Yeah.
I mean, if we want to really say a team, it's the Miami Marlins.
You got healthy on them.
Days.
Right. You got healthy on them. But then Harry Dalton comes in, and he starts making some moves. And Robin comes into his own, and they draft Molitor, 2 Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Then you had somebody like Cecil Cooper, who was every bit as good a hitter as George Scott.
I didn't realize how much this team was put together. Like, this was not draft and develop.
No.
I always thought this was draft and develop, but it wasn't.
The infield was, because you had Gantner, you had Yount, you had Molitor, all 3 from the farm system. But then you brought in the other guys, like a Cooper.
Right.
George Scott wouldn't have fit on this team as well. He was a different kind of ball player. Gorman Thomas was homegrown. He might not have gotten to play for a lot of teams. And he ended up being led the league in home runs at least once, maybe twice. I mean, and he hit moonshots.
By the way, he did say something. When did the Seattle get another team? When did the Mariners come back into play? Because my understanding is they were basically a 90s expansion, but it doesn't sound like that's
I think they were the expansion in 98?
No, they were already playing at that point.
Okay,
yeah.
then maybe they would have been the 87 era,
Okay.
someplace in there. It was a long
I
time.
know it was a dome. I've only ever seen
Kingdome.
Seattle Park now.
The Kingdome, yeah. And it was like the Superdome in New Orleans. It was this massive, huge expanse of a dome.
Really?
And it was loud, but it was also an echo chamber if nobody was there. So it was
like the Rays Stadium today, or no?
the ceiling a little bit. There is no worse stadium now that they're moving out of Oakland.
Yeah.
Tampa is the worst stadium in all of baseball.
That's my question to you, too. So, you mentioned the A's and how, terrible they are. Do you think now that they're moving to Vegas that they're going to all of a sudden start to spend on players?
Yes. I mean, they're going
have to, right?
Yeah, they're moving to, where are they? It's not Sacramento, maybe San Jose.
They're going to be in Sacramento for a couple
Sacramento
years.
for a couple years. Things will start to turn around. But when they get to Vegas, they will be a contender again.
Do you think it's just they're going to start spending?
They'll start because they'll have, the ballpark should be filled, but they'll have the revenues from the TV and the radio.
Raider Stadium isn't filled. Like, I think this allure that all of a sudden you're going to go to Vegas and be this massive money-making franchise is more of an illusion.
If it ends up being that, then moving to Vegas will be the worst thing that sports ever did. I mean, they didn't go there for decades because of the gambling.
Well, and I hate what is happening with gambling in sports now. Did you hear what that Auburn quarterback said?
Yeah.
He's getting money, or he's getting requests after losses, Venmo requests for people to give them their money back on gambling because they lost.
That's why it's called gambling.
But it's like, that's the problem with opening sports betting to the populace, is now everybody's going to be so focused on, did I make money off of this, that it just takes away the lure from the game. I hate that sports has just gotten in bed with gambling at this point.
I got to be honest with you. I think we're going to look back in 15 years and regret that baseball ever got involved with gambling.
NBA already is.
We're good.
What's going on? I'm sorry. Yeah.
I just want to say thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah,
of course.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Sounds good.
And that's why they call it live. Nice to meet you. Live broadcast.
I love being live. I absolutely love being. I love meeting our fans.
I do too.
That's the most important thing to see.
I do
It's
too.
cool we have a couple of people here.
And I think the fans are going to love what they're going to see tonight. This doesn't happen often.
No, to bring this team together. I keep getting amazed because right above us, you guys can't see it, but it's behind us, they are showing all the highlights of the 82 Brewers. And I just keep looking at this like Molitor's taking off right now to first base. It's just unbelievable how talented this team was.
Oh, there was no weak spot in that lineup. I mean, Gantner talked
Rowley's
about...
arm was a weak spot.
What's that?
Rowley's arm was a weak spot.
Yeah, at the end of the season. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to talk to Rowley, but that was the difference in the whole season.
You're not wrong. I mean, that's all I'm hearing now.
Yeah.
I didn't believe you, but that's all anybody talks about is the fact that Rowley Fingers didn't play.
When he went down with that injury, number one, you're asking a kid. Pete Ladd was a big guy, but he was a kid.
Yeah.
To step in for a Hall of Famer. That's not fair. And yet he did a decent job. He won some big games. He was a pitcher when the Brewers won the ALCS. But to go into a World Series and then to get a call like they did in Game 2.
That was a bad call.
That messed with his head.
It's hard not to in that situation. Even Pete Ladd in the movie mentions that messed with his head.
Yeah.
I mean, he was very open about that. He's like, all of a sudden, that rocked me. And he gave up, 4 or 5 runs after that?
It was over at that point, and that kind of changed the attitude of the series. And look, you got to give St. Louis credit. Willie McGee had an unbelievable series. They won, make no mistake, but they should have. Even Whitey Herzog says if Raleigh would have pitched, it would have been a different series.
Everybody says it.
Right. Well, and then you would have had 2 of the greatest relievers to ever play the game. You had Bruce Sutter on the Cardinals, Raleigh Fingers on the Brewers. You can't ask for anything better.
Well, it sets up a different mindset when all of a sudden you are coming up to bat and it's Rowley Fingers on the mound versus Pete Ladd.
And he was 35 during that season. He didn't throw a hard fastball anymore, but he threw the forkball.
Well, and I think that's the most amazing thing that we heard from a lot of these guys out here. Mike Caldwell made that point very succinctly of Rowley put the ball wherever he wanted.
Right. Yep. And same with Caldwell. You heard Simmons say it during the movie. That game, he just had to put his glove down.
Right.
Caldwell would hit the glove. And Caldwell wasn't the kind of guy that was going to overpower you. He wasn't the guy who was going to throw a lot of strikeouts. He just threw what I called an atom ball. Right. It was going to be hit, but it was going to be at somebody.
Well, it was going to be a pop-up or it was going to be a ground ball. You're going to put it where your defense is. And I don't think you see a lot of that in baseball now where you're trusting your defense. At least it doesn't seem like it from the outside.
It doesn't. But again, they've got throwers now. They don't have pitchers. And, we beat this horse to death.
Right.
But it's worth continuing the conversation because baseball, in order to get further into the 21st century, has to change it. They've got to go back to having pitchers.
Well, that's the big thing is you have to go back. You really do have to go back. I do want to take a moment to say thank you all who are watching this stream. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy all the stuff we do. Can't thank the Brewers enough for letting us be here to live record, to talk with players that you grew up with.
Yeah.
I mean, this is absolutely unbelievable to see you just acting like a child. It's amazing.
I've been trying not to go fanboy too much.
You've been good. You have. I got to admit, you've been
I lost
good.
it a little with Cecil.
You did.
I
just shut up when Cecil was here.
Yeah.
I just let you talk.
that's why I looked at you the one time going, you want to ask something? Go ahead.
That was good.
No,
just
I'm
let
going to
you
just
sit and
continue this
listen.
conversation.
I'm excited to see the movie on the big screen here. The premiere is tonight, but the movie does release in theaters all across Wisconsin September 13th, just a bit outside the story of the 1982 Brewers.
And the only place you can see it is at a Marcus Theater.
It is Marcus Theaters. It is theaters only. And honestly, why would you want to see this movie anywhere but a theater at this point?
People got out of the habit of going to the movies, but this one, if you're a Brewer fan, if you're in Wisconsin, you want to go and see this.
You're going to see with fans of yours. You get to relive it with people that you actually lived this. And for you and I, this is what makes amazing about this movie, is you have a lot of dads like you that annoy the hell out of their kids talking about the 82 Brewers, and you just don't get it.
No.
All of a sudden, I got to live this with you watching this movie. You know, we really got to enjoy this moment together that I wasn't even alive for. It was so special to see your reaction and be able to react to it almost live, like I was a part of it.
Well, and you and I sat up till what, about 1 o'clock after that movie?
Yeah.
Just talking about the movie, talking about the team. It was the one chance to really share the team that was my team back then.
Right.
I've
I've gotten to share all my teams with you, right? Because you've been there for all of it. I never got to share your team. And this brings it together. So if you are a dad that annoys your son as much as mine annoys me with the 82 Brewers, go see this movie with them.
Which, considering I was only about 22 at that time, I didn't want to have you around at that point.
Yeah.
I would not have, no.
Listen, I am my first kid at 23.
Yeah. You're more mature than I was.
Oh, that's not true. I just had to figure it out in a hurry. Do want to take a moment again to thank our team that is here today. Matthew McCullough, who is producing this for us. How are we sounding, Matt? He's saying we're sounding good. And Cullen Heder and Russell Heder, who are here helping us out as well, making sure we're getting to talk to players, making sure we're getting some good pictures. So thank you both for being a part of this with us.
By the way, did you notice I added to our bobblehead collection today?
No, who'd you add?
Well, there was a Harvey Keene one, and I didn't have a good Post-Molitor one.
Where did you get the Harvey Keene bobblehead?
It was a sports card place.
Really?
Yeah. Where I got the baseball. It was
How much did you spend going to a sports card place?
I'd rather not talk about it right now.
Oh, my goodness.
Let's put it this way. The baseballs were more expensive than the bobbleheads.
I can see that.
I
can see that. I am very excited. We have had every single person sign the ball. We're doing a great charity auction with those. It's going to go to a very good cause. It's going to build church, which is absolutely outstanding. And I'm excited we get to give back.
Yes.
You know, that was the one thing we talked about with this show is, hey, we get to be here and enjoy this amazing moment. What good can we do with it? We thought, what better than find an auction that this can go to, and what better thing than to build a new church?
And look, and this is a charity we're choosing because we're both members of that church.
Yeah.
They haven't had a building for 100 years.
Yeah.
So it's finally going to have a proper structure.
It is.
But there are other charities out there like Wounded Warrior Project.
Yeah.
Pre-Parent, which gives ultrasounds to women who might otherwise not get them. So find a charity, do good, and give back a little bit.
If you ever get an opportunity, make sure you are always giving back. So who's been your favorite player to talk to so far?
We're getting close to the premiere.
Who's been your favorite player to talk to so far?
Yes. The only one I'm sorry I haven't gotten over here yet is Ted Simmons. Or Vukovic.
I don't know if I'd be able to handle you if Ted Simmons came over here.
Well, I was a catcher, and he is one of the greatest ever. The greatest switch-hitting catcher ever. Maybe the only switch-hitting, but he was also very good. And
Has there been another switch-hitting catcher?
If there is, I don't know.
I don't know either.
I mean, think about that. You're a catcher, and you're a switch hitter on top of it.
Yeah.
That is athleticism off the charts.
It is. Matt, you're a Tigers fan. What did you think about him saying Detroit was his favorite place to pitch? Excited about it. I looked over as soon as Caldwell said that to Matt. He's a huge Detroit fan in general. Obnoxious about the Lions right now. And his face lit up when he heard Detroit was the favorite place to pitch.
Well, that old ballpark was iconic. I mean, the 71 All-Star game where Reggie hit one off the facing. The only thing that always bugged me about that facing actually was hung over the field a little bit.
What do you mean?
The upper deck at Old Tiger was built out a little bit.
Really?
So, yeah, while Reggie smoked it and that ball would have went on forever, it was hanging over a little bit.
I mean, it's the Tigers' fault for allowing that to happen.
Look, that was when Reggie was in Oakland A. Then he went to Baltimore for a minute. Then he went to the Yankees. And then he had against Bert Hooton. So when you mentioned Bert Hooton,
yeah,
one of his 3 home runs in that 3-home run game in the 77 World Series was off of Hooton. One pitch. It was just gone. It was.
Well, again, it goes back to what Cooper said. You saw a pitch, you swung.
Yeah. Yeah,
and to make it work, not waiting for your pitch nonsense.
And Reggie punished him.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a knuckle curve that didn't knuckle or curve.
Yeah, I mean,
and Reggie obliged
there.
him. This has been an amazing night.
It has. We got the premiere starting soon. We got another 5 minutes live here on the air. I always give you the last word. I can't imagine just because we're live that has to change. So I'm going to leave it to you.
Okay. I'm going to give you one minor league story.
Okay.
So everybody hears stories about the minor leagues and all the events they do or whatever. I worked in the Quad Cities. They were having an old-timers game.
Yep.
And nobody was signing up for the old-timers game. Your uncle, my brother, played baseball, was a good ball player. And so I decided, let's cook something up. So one of the reporters, for his own protection, will remain nameless.
Yeah.
And I got to be good friends. And I said, look, we're having trouble. But my brother, who played in the minor leagues and was a AAA ball player at Pawtucket, the Red Sox AAA Farm Club, is coming in for the game. He wrote a really nice article based on everything I said. This was pre-internet days.
Yep.
He said, I told him that he couldn't get to the major leagues because, of course, Rico Petrocelli was the third baseman for the Boston team during that time. A week before the old-timers game, the Appleton Foxes named a brand new manager by the name of
Rico
Petrocelli. I have to go and pick him up at the airport, and I have to explain the scam I've pulled.
Yep.
He doesn't say a word. And I told him, I said, look, you can call me out, and I'll get fired, and I'll understand it.
Yeah.
Now, I had to fall on the sword. Didn't say a word. Comes to the day where they're having batting practice for the old-timers game. He saw your Uncle Mark. Could tell we're related.
Yep.
He walks up to him and goes, Mark, how the hell are you? I haven't seen you since Pawtucket in spring training.
Bailed you out.
Bailed my ass out. Fast forward through the game. Mark takes batting practice, hits the first pitch against the wall, walks out of batting practice. He goes, I can't do any better. That's enough. And he played pretty well in the old-timers game. Fast forward 2 weeks later. I'm up in the press box. Game's about to begin. Mr. Reporter comes in, and he's not his normal happy-go-lucky, cherubby-like demeanor. He's pissed.
I bet.
He found out that Mark not only didn't play minor league baseball, he had no idea who Rico Petrocelli was. He goes, you lied to me, you son of a... He's going on, and I finally had to look at him and go, well, there's only 2 people that really know. Me, who cooked it up, and then there's you who put it out on your entire distribution. So you have a choice. You can either call it out, or you can just shut up about it. He never spoke to me again after that. I actually tried to reach out to him a few years ago because he was a columnist now, and he's doing very well. Would not return my call.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty ridiculous thing to do. But it worked.
It worked, and it was minor leagues, and that's what you did.
Surprises me he's still mad about it, though. Like, that's a pretty funny story.
That's a pretty funny story. I have tried to reach out to Rico Petrocelli to get him on the show. Haven't been able to connect with him yet.
Well, maybe we can do it here live.
Maybe he won't even remember it, but it was pretty funny for me.
I love it. That's a great way to end it. Great last word as always. We got to go to see a movie. I know we've already seen it, but we got to go see it in the big screen. Make sure you do not miss this movie. It comes out Friday, just a bit outside the story of the 1982 Milwaukee Brewers. Bring the whole family. It is worth it. Thank you, as always, so much for watching. This has been Sports Talk with Dad.